much. Let me indeed comment also on what Carol has been saying, which is absolutely right. If we take experience from other countries, and I think there is a clear need of the proper ingredients, exactly as you said. And by proper ingredients, the first one is a political will. And sometimes it's undermined because it's seen as maybe a gadget or something that is not measurable. It's not an indicator, it's not an index you follow, but this is the most important point in order to make things work. And I'm linking this political will with the right, what I call political governance. It may not be the right word, but what I mean by this is that you have a political will that you need to have executed by the people in place, and by, of course, the various ministers, by, of course, people working in the ministries, the whole administration. And often this point also is underlooked. It's seen also as a gadget. But you see more than you think cases of success or failure of policies linked to the organization and actual organization of the government. And what it means is there a clear political will? Is there a clear path? If the answer is already yes, it's helpful. But then who executes it? Who's responsible of it? And actually, how do we measure it? And I've seen constantly over the years that the countries that are able to put KPIs, for lack of a better word, I hate this word, but still it's kind of like useful. It helps to have people accountable, to know also what they have to do, what they have to deliver. They have to deliver it in a given period of time. So it's all clear and somehow it can move forward. Of course, the most important point is that all those actions that everybody is conducting is consistent, because this is my third point. I mean, you have so many examples of inconsistent policies, and obviously inconsistent policies do never bear fruits. And you have several types of inconsistent policies. Either they're inconsistent because one day you say, I'm decreasing the taxes, the following day you're increasing the taxes. So basically it cannot be stable, right? It cannot create a very trustful environment. And it doesn't attract anybody, neither the domestic investors or domestic people, neither, of course, the foreign investors. But it can also be that within a government program, you actually have things that are not consistent. Typically, you can take a measure on the fiscal side that in fact is not in line with your economic strategy. And it sounds pretty stupid, but actually it happens more often than you believe. And this is never going to be helpful. You need clear policies going into one or two directions, making sometimes very simple assumptions around the goal that you want to achieve. It's the only way to kind of like have things deliver. The fourth lessons I think we have to also bear in mind, apart from the consistency, is also the fact to be realistic when it comes to timing and achievements. Because while you have to have good governance, good KPIs, you also, of course, need to let people time to actually deliver. So you should not overshoot, you should not undershoot and leave too much time for people to execute, but having the right also timing and pace is also very important. Why? Because you cannot impose measures on people that they don't want to have, basically. Sometimes you need consensus, and it can be political consensus or it can be consensus from social society, actually. And this also happens much more often than one believes. Typically, and there are lots of examples, but if I just talking about VAT, for example, in the Gulf, this, of course, was a taboo topic before it was considered as something that was absolutely necessary. And the success of VAT in the countries also depends on the pace where it has been implemented, the level and the threshold that were chosen, and also the acceptance of people for this VAT. It's absolutely crucial if you want to have a good execution. Fifth point, I think indeed to Carol's point, you need all the right framework. And framework means governance, framework means anti-corruption, framework of course means, and indeed whatever one thinks about the doing business indicator, and we should not enter into a debate here in this panel, but this gives you some good grounds for reforms and basically good indicators to follow. And actually, if you have completed none of them, I mean, it's not good. If you have completed all of them, good for you, and you may need to do more. But actually, there are already a bunch of those reforms that you can do and then can substantially increase the level and the attractiveness of a country. You need to do this. Nobody is going to invest into a country where there is corruption. Nobody is going to invest into a country where there is poor governance. Nobody is going to invest in a country where it's extremely tricky to build your business and also very unsafe or very kind of like uncertain. And sixth point is also about kind of like the strength of the country. By strength of the country, it's of course strength of the institution, but it's also strength of the financials. As of course, everyone looks into the state and the credit worthiness of a country. For sure, Iraq has gone through substantial restructuring. It's even a case study when it comes to what is learned when it comes on restructuring. Clearly, Iraq can benefit and should aim to benefit from some of the abundant funding that is available around the world, be it from the public or from the private sector. It, of course, needs to go with a wide range of reforms because investors are not lending unless you have a clear path to see that you're going to be reimbursed. But this is definitely a journey working more on the debt and using kind of like the debt capacity that Iraq will at some point need to embark, of course, as part of various reforms, fiscal strengthening and so on, but just to kind of like regain credibility, full access to any type of instrument that it can basically benefit from.